Hi, it's MA here, and today I'm going to do Simon's tag from the Hermit's Cave, all about tarot. So let's get started. My first deck and how I encountered it. So my first deck in this little bag is a standard, I think this was a universal weight Starback, which I've over the years trimmed and edged. And how I encountered it is I just kind of randomly said, oh, I think I could buy a tarot deck now. And I just bought this one off of Amazon. It came with, I think it was the weight book, which I found incomprehensible and very dry. So I initially tossed the book away and gave up until a couple of years ago, mostly through TarotTube. I finally started picking things up again. My first encounters with cards in the mid 1980s, I lived in Hartford, Connecticut, and at my corner there was a New Age shop. And I do remember they had a lot of decks of cards that had angels all over them. So did that exist then? I vaguely remember it, but it was part of that New Age thing, which I don't know, I just was not into. I found it a little just not what I was looking for. And I also had a lot of misunderstandings about tarot, about who it was for. I thought it was for fortune tellers and psychics and not for, regular people. So I had a lot of misconceptions that were my barrier to encountering tarot. And when I did, it was kind of a random pick. And I love this little deck. It's my good friend. Okay. My last deck. So the most recent deck that has come into my possession is the Forest of Enchantment Tarot. And this was something that wasn't really on my radar that I thought I would like, but in terms of how my tastes have changed, I was really at first purchasing serious decks, darker decks. I thought, I think a lot of them were a little bit aspirational and also maybe my mood. And my taste has softened a lot in terms of not shutting things off that I think don't fit a certain model or persona of myself that doesn't exist, and giving things a try. I do tend to sit on wish list items for a very long time before I buy them, which helps me avoid some mistakes. But yeah, it's really been a softening of my do's and don'ts. Yeah, that's what's changed the most. I'm willing to let things in that I wasn't previously willing to let in. Why tarot? That's a good question. I fell into tarot through studying with people that were involved in occult poetics. So that's how I finally saw that the tarot wasn't just for, fortune tellers and this kind of thing. So I encountered people that were using it in connection with writing practice and questions about the creative process. So that's how I came to it. My precursor to tarot was, I should have brought I don't have the book in front of me, but I had been doing some work looking at synchronicities. I was using a book called Sidewalk Oracles and some other practices that I didn't really consider divination, including bibliomancy, not Bible bibliomancy, but regular book bibliomancy as part of creative writing. And then tarot got added in. So yeah, I guess that's the how more than the why, but that's what happened. Tarot pet peeves. I do have deal breakers. I haven't listed them, but I think one of my most recent pet peeves is when a deck is created and the artwork and the idea is great, but then it just has like the crappiest font or the typeface or the integration of the text is so off-putting that I just can't with it. I don't know what else to say about that. I think that's a shame. I know a lot of people create decks just for fun or for their own use. I'm not putting any of that down, but when something's going out to the marketplace, I wish a little more attention was paid. If you've got a friend that's into graphic design, do a barter, you know, have them just like eyeball it. I don't know what the answer is, but that I know is one thing that has put me off um, some decks lately is just the way the text and the images are going together. I don't know. I don't know. That's my snobby thing. I don't care so much about cardstock. I don't get all chuffed about that. You know, the usual stuff about, um, you know, cultural insensitivity or appropriation. I try to keep an eye out for that. But I think we all have a different bar about what constitutes that. Yeah, so that's that one. My favorite tarot spread, I don't use spreads a lot, although I recently started working with using the central, you know, circular 6 cards from the Celtic Cross on its own without the 4 cards on the side. And I'm enjoying practicing with that. I am finding with the way I'm learning now and the way I'm trying to study more that having more cards on the table is what I'm interested in right now because I want to let the relationships play out between more cards than just 1, 2, or 3. So I'm working with that 6 card, and sometimes I'll just put a bunch of cards down on the table. Yeah, I don't use position questions usually. I like to let the cards speak to each other. That being said, I love to follow divination challenges on Instagram, and a lot of times around new moons, full moons, and certain astrological signs, people will create you know, a small spread for those occasions. And if it's a time of the year that I feel the energy is different, or maybe if it's around a birthday, I will sometimes play with those. Yeah, so it's not a specific spread, but I do keep an eye open. If something strikes a chord with me at that place and time, I'll probably just use it that once and never go back to it. Yep. So that's spreads. My preferred tarot system. Yeah, I'm all about the Rider-Waite-Smith. Um, I love the symbolism. I love the original art. Yeah, I just love it. That's what I've learned from. I'm starting to branch out into a little Marseille study to work with pips more. And I'm looking at a couple of thoughts decks, but I'm not sure where I'm going to land like with that. That to me feels like a switch that I don't know if I'm going to be able to turn on and off with multiple systems, where I feel like the Marseille is more of a layering together of what I've learned using the RWS system and being able to kind of allow those to melt together in my brain, I think will work a little better. So thought is maybe a little distant. Okay, tarot rituals. I don't really have any. I'm not big into cleansing decks and anything like that. If I get a deck that feels really special to me, and I have one right now, I will probably wrap it in a scarf and keep it on my altar for a period of time. Um, that's not every deck. That's like maybe I've done that with 3 or 4 decks where I start using it and it feels like it really has something to tell me, and I want to let it kind of sit and absorb the energy that's being put into my altar space. I do most of the time, unless it's a really, I don't know what to call it, susceptible or very rose petally deck that might show stains, I do like to put a couple of drops of some kind of anointing oil on my palms and rub them together and maybe rub them along the edges of the deck. I like my decks to smell good. So if I have them in a box, I may put like an old incense wrapper in with them, or they had some Palo Santo that came in a subscription box, and I splintered off little pieces and put it in with decks. So yeah, I guess that's a ritual. And if there's room for a crystal, oh, okay, now I'm thinking of more things. I've started pairing decks with palm stone crystals, um, kind of as an associative device. And yeah, so those are things. Those are things I do. Okay, how do I use tarot? Um, I mostly read for myself. I read for some friends. I'm starting to put in some, you know, free reading time to build up my hours of experience. But I mostly I think of tarot as an advisor. Tarot's my advisor. I talk to it. I consult with it. So it's, I guess, mostly introspection, but also divination in terms of where are things heading? If I don't change something, where is this, what road are we on here? And should that be changed? So I guess that's a combination of both. Um, Significator card and why it represents me. So I have a few. My significator card in the minors, in a shadowy way, is the Eight of Swords. I frequently find myself in that position. That's one of my personality tendencies, is to kind of tell myself I'm stuck, or subconsciously feel like I'm stuck, when really it's of my own doing. So yeah, so when that card comes up, in a draw, I pay a little extra attention, just because I feel like that's pointing something out to me. I don't use significators in a spread. The way I was recently taught to think about court cards, and I'm still experimenting with this, is when I'm putting cards down, the first court card that comes up in that particular draw would represent me, and that could really be any card, right? So I'm playing with that idea to see how it works out. In the courts, the king or queen of swords, maybe more the king. Again, I'm thinking more of the shadowy side of the cards and myself with this. Being overly attached to knowing, and having that be like a very exciting and fulfilling part of my life, but also needing to let that go. So maybe the King of Swords sometimes for me, and then probably one of the Pentacles on a good day. It's probably more Queen of Pentacles. So yeah, somewhere in between those two. But again, I don't ever pull a significator for a spread. Yeah. Most expensive tarot acquisition. So I have two decks that it's a literal tie. It's a complete tie. One of them I've shown a few times. It was an art gallery deck. It's the Abstract Futures deck, which is a abstract deck done by the artists collective Hilma's Ghost. I know I've showed it before. And then the other one that I paid exactly the same amount for was that someone in a Facebook group was selling their copy of the Robert M. Place Vampire Tarot at a very fair and actually low price, and I was happy to get a hold of that. The edges are trimmed. I think someone had trimmed the edges, and I have absolutely no problem with that, because I bought this deck to use, and so I'm happy with both of those. Yeah. So those were my more expensive deck purchases. And that's the absolute top of the limit. I would never go over that, $100 mark. Probably. Yeah. I love to collect decks, but I don't have something that I'm burning for so greatly that I'm going to really extend the price point. Okay. Unicorn deck, the deck that's so hard to find. So the Vampire Tarot was that deck for a while, and then it came to me in a trade group. Other than that, I don't really have one, but I was reminded yesterday when I was watching someone's YouTube live that the Penny Slinger Secret Dakini Oracle, I'd love to find an old copy of that. But really what my unicorn deck situation is, I see and hear people say all the time that they're in like a used bookstore or somewhere, and they come upon a pile of tarot decks. I would love to be in any bookstore or junk store and find a pile of tarot junk. Not even that it was like valuable decks and I'm finding a bargain. I would just like to stumble upon someone's stash of gritty, wrinkled, dirty decks somewhere. Yeah, so that's my unicorn deck situation. I just want to find that treasure trove somewhere and pick through it. Not even maybe buy any. I just want to like pick through them and see what's in the stash. Yeah. Oh, most important lesson the tarot has taught you. Well, it's more and more teaching me to trust my instinct it's teaching me to, helping me practice shutting off my inner critic as much and negative self-talk. So it's a funny dance with the tarot between using it and letting it teach me how to build my self-worth while at the same time calling me out on my nonsense. So I guess where those two meet in the middle is, love and acceptance of yourself, accepting the flaws, embracing the good, and meeting together as a whole person. And that has really something that in the real locked down times of COVID, was work that I didn't know still needed to be underway. And given the time and given the access to all this great tarot content, I was able to kind of push that further. And also to recognize that work will never end. Yeah, great. Okay, dinner party guests of honor, and two others. Okay, I think and I didn't realize this was tarot related, but I think Simon said, tarot related. So yeah, definitely Pamela Coleman Smith. Man, I have so many questions for her, so much I would love to know. So she is definitely invited. Two other guests. I would love to invite my great grandmother, Anna Benoit. I have a lot of questions for her as well. My mother has recently been telling me things that she read tea leaves. She did, as my mother put it, something with cards. So I've been looking into French Canadian playing card divination, and I'd love to have a talk with her and Pixie at the same time. I think they're roughly the same age too, which is interesting. And then for a third guest, I don't know, maybe on my channel giveaway, that would be the prize, is that someone else could come to the dinner. Yeah, how's that? Or I'd really like to talk to Hildegard of Bingen. Yeah, I think she's got a lot. I would have a lot of questions for her as well, definitely. So that's my all about tarot. I hope I didn't skip any of the questions. I think I got them all. I'm peering off to the side here. This was a great tag. I really enjoyed Simon's response. I'm starting to watch all the other ones. And yeah, thank you.